we're going to be finishing talking about what the Noel of Zion might be, but I've had the knobby problem to me of joy on my mind this week, and much more since great sadness really hit the news at the end of the week. Now, I'd like to preface with probably one of the most inaccurate things I ever heard a Sunday school teacher say. Isn't that awesome? I've learned so much from my Sunday school teachers, but I was in a church, and this lady was one of my Sunday school teachers, but a great lady, perfect. You just now and then you can say dumb things. And we were in Bible study together, and we were discussing the life of God, and probably we were in Proverbs talking about ordering your life in a way where God is meeting you and showing you how to live. And she said, well, what I'm thinking is that if a person doesn't plan to, is never going to accept Jesus, okay, they should probably sin as much as they want to, so as to have some fun before the judgment falls. And she repeated this. She said, they should just have a great old time, sin all they want, because it's going to be awful after they're judged. And I'm thinking, oh, no. Because, that's not the experience that I had in my life, in my teenage years, and that you would not have looked at me and said, wow, that's a kid that's got virtue just oozing out of him. You would have said, that kid has some major issues, that he has some things that's going on in his life that should not be going on, and things that he appears to be in the habit of doing that are not going to fly, long term in his life. And that's what I call, walking in some serious sin. And I tell you, that was not fun. It was not fun. I was not having joy. I did not have a joy, roaring around in my heart. And even though I thought I was having a high old time, that was just not the thing. When I finally made some changes in my life, when I finally examined, the way I truly believed and the way I needed to act in line with that belief, then so many things came in line. God met me in the midst of my choices. God met me in the midst of my living, and then I found some joy. And then I've been among happier people, and I've had better times since I have dedicated, the practice of my life to following the precepts of Jesus Christ. Now I know that there are. We get kind of a knock that Christians do not have fun, and we preach that sermon fairly easily. And I'm just telling you, I have trouble meeting those people that are Christian and don't know how to laugh, and don't know how to have a good time, or don't know how to have a feast. I mean, there are some Christians that seem to be underdeveloped in the mirth and fun department. They're like that. But when I got to know them pastorally, when you really get inside people's head and discover as much about their life as you possibly can, their religion isn't the source of that. There's a lot of ways you can grow up and be kind of an Eeyore, kind of I live in the sad and depressing place. And there's people, if God made you like that, there's things that we can learn from that. Well, so to talk about joy, because we're here talking about, with joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. And we're on that verse because if you found St. Luke, and you can look him up in heaven when you get there. If you found St. Luke and said, this is a prophecy, this is a promise, this is a great song of praise coming out of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 12, and when does that really come to pass? When in Israel's history, when in the history of the world are we going to have that, are we experiencing that opportunity of drawing, with joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation? When does that really come to pass in the history of the world? And St. Luke wrote about that. The angel comes, and he says, I give you good tidings of great joy, which will be for all people. Unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. He says, that is right there, where joy becomes real, becomes a possibility, becomes something that you can grasp, and it's powerful in your life. It's present before, but the manifestation of it, the thing that God is doing that brings us joy, that is like water you can draw from well, with joy will draw water from the wells of salvation. He says that's fulfilled in Jesus. And most answers that St. Luke would give to questions would be really about Jesus. He who was big on Jesus. So we can talk just briefly about two things that this joy is not. Okay, just looking at the idea that, with joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. Joy, if you go to the next slide, joy is not found in the abyss of sin. Okay, covered that, haven't I? That I had what was called a sinful life. I had friends and I had things, and we thought we were having fun, and we were not. Okay, and so it was not fun at all. I still have people from my past, and it's so funny. You can find them on Facebook. And one in particular, I can read some posts. I seem to have a lot of time to post. I can read some posts, and I look at that and I say, it looks like they're having fun. Lots of fun. Kind of a high old, marvelous, powerful time. They're talking about, they're having fun. By the middle of the week, same week, their post will consist of, I can't stand it, I hate everybody, I wish it would just stop. Sure, quote. That's a direct quote. So we go from over the weekend, having a powerful time. Oh, having a weekend. It's living the party life. Having a weekend where it's people, it's the pleasures of the flesh, it's the gaiety of the life of the party animal. And then by the middle of the week, it's I hate everybody, make it stop, I can't stand it. These people are not having fun. But it's even more powerful than that, because it goes deeper. You see, that the things we do are just reflections of whether and how we experience that is, God is meeting us in our choices, God is meeting us in our life. His graces are available in your day-to-day, in the times of your life. And when we turn from a life-affirming vision of what humanity, what the human family, what my life is for, and what it's about, and turn to darkness. I would put a dark abyss on there, but then it would look like something black. Okay? Everything goes wrong. Realize there's two commentaries on two reactions to the Christ child in the Gospel of Matthew. There's the wise men who say, the Christ child is coming. The one, my golly, the thing that God is doing, the child, it's there, and we should go worship him. The other reaction is from Herod. Reaction number 2. We need to kill him. And kill many people along with him. Realize that somewhere in our fleshly embraces is that concept that life doesn't matter. Make it stop. I don't care. I wish I and other people had never been born. It's a path, and it's a slide. It's a continuation of that philosophy that there's a very, very extremely life-affirming God who giving us this beautiful language and beautiful story and Matthew and Luke of celebrating the birth of this child, because in that child is the potential and the realization of everything God wants to do in this world. God is excited about people. God is excited about life. But realize there's the opposite reaction, and you can have that reaction. Because it is in our sinful nature to have that reaction of do away with everybody. Do away with everything. And you have that. That is the reaction of the mass murderer. That's the reaction of the person that acted out of despair. And I'm pushing away of the world, of the nations, of God who is excited about life in this world. So that's not where joy is. It's not in the abyss of sin. It's not in denying what God's purpose in your life is. It's not trying to carve your own way outside of the plan of the Creator for your life. But it's also not someplace else. And so going to the next screen would be to say, it is not in the whole of the law. You notice that the angels appear in the fields of over the shepherds, and the glory of God shines down around them. And then what does not happen is then a big copy of the Ten Commandments down in front of them. Because you will not draw, like water, the joy of salvation from the law. Okay? And we do this to people all the time. Because we start in very young. It's Christmas and you should be happy. By golly, it's Christmas and it's about family, and you're going to Aunt Frida if it kills you. I don't care. It's joy, you better look joyful. We lay that upon people. That is laying law upon people. That is again, outworking the realization that there is sin and that our lives are not right with God. And by God, you better get that straightened out. But that is not the message. You know, it said that, you know, the content of what joy that God sends down at Christmas was Jesus, and that is about mercy. So it is not that we're delivered new awareness of the nuances of the rules that we may keep. That is simply not the proclamation that is bringing us to draw water draw with joy water from the well of salvation. It is not with law. And that continues into deeper and grimmer ways that you can expose of. And I know the motivation. I mean, you know, there are people who are so anxious for you to grasp the meaning of Christmas, they will yell at you and scold you if you don't look like you're grasping it. There are people who are so keen and they're so vitally aware and passionate about the importance of family in your life. They're long-term people that are there and they matter and you need to respond to them. And they'll make you see Aunt Frida, and it's probably good for you to know. But too much law. Too much law. And we see it, and it has a deeper and a grimmer side. You can go to the secular side of the world, and I don't care what disaster it is, whether we're getting hurricanes or tsunamis, or whether the world is freezing, or the world is thawing, or the world is slowly being poisoned, or the world is slowly dying of radiation. They'll say, you deserve this. This is what happens when people make bad choices and live irresponsibly. Happens on the religious side. Don't care what bad news it is. Don't care what thing that some evil people have concocted. What thing that shocks and appalls us and brings us horror in the news. They'll say, "This is what happens when people turn from God." Notice how very similar those statements are. Notice how full of law. I know we're passionate. We want people to live wisely and not irresponsibly. And the Christian knows the reality of sin and the harm that is called on. And they really passionately want to call a nation to repent. But don't begin by saying, you deserve horrors, you deserve crushing punishments, you deserve things that grieve and break hearts. That may be true, but that's not the proclamation that made people say, wow. Because God is big on mercy. You can go to my screen. You know, you're going to draw with joy water from the well of salvation. You're going to say the Noel of Zion. Okay. Named my daughter Noel. First daughter Noel. She's a wonderful child. She was difficult at first. Let's see in a minute. Noel is for many Christmas. Now, it also was a word for a Christmas song. It was originally cheer. That's kind of cool. You know, that you think Christians didn't have fun, you go thousands of years ago. There wasn't a lot to be, 1,000 years ago, but there was not a lot to be happy about. By golly, people would say, "No!" which meant, you know, coming from the Italian, coming from the French, Natale, you know, birth. You just shouted the birth. And then you would go roast a pig. The feast would start. The family would come in. The fires would burn. Because loving Jesus and loving God means you know how to celebrate. Now you're getting joy. It's not from law. It's not from embracing just fun for fun's sake or fleshly fulfillment. No, but to have a life in Christmas, something that really matters is to refer to what's going on in the verse here. It says, "Shout aloud and sing for joy, people of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel." You see the content of what goes on here. "With joy will draw water from the wells of salvation. The Lord is my strength. He has become my salvation." Realize, when you're saying salvation, you're basically saying in Jesus' name. You will name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. It means saving. His name. We're to look at the joy that God brings, with the content being Jesus, what the angels proclaim. The content is Jesus Christ himself, that child that is born, and saying that say about having joy, getting joy, possessing the joy of a Christian, it is when what God is doing has become so large in your view. What God is doing has taken over your vision. What God is doing is right in your eye, and you can't get away from it. You know, that's going to overcome moments of despair. That's going to overcome moments of being broke. It's going to help you overcome the temptation to spend money to medicate your pain. It's going to help you to overcome the temptation to be disagreeable or become addicted to things to medicate your despair. It's going to touch us in times when it seems that death is the only word that we've seen. They're going to help us in times of national misfortune. It's also going to keep us balanced in times when we abound and our lives prosper. Because great is the Holy One among you. Suddenly, like the shepherds of the field, everything that was going on in heaven is suddenly all around